We kind of do the show on the fly, and which is good.
Yeah.
And to tell people what just happened maybe about 15 minutes ago.
So when we were starting to do the shots, Anthony Sweeney walked in because he was getting a ball bag and was going to have some film time. And he was kind of a little bit bashful, but immediately my reaction is to grab him and show him.
Yeah, hold this up.
Over here, and if you watched the previous broadcast interview with Justin,
hold it up because we didn't hold it up. Explain what this is.
So this is the year after my senior year, we break the national record for consecutive wins. And it's funny because if you know Coach Alumbaugh now, he is a paragon of fitness. And this was, I won't embarrass him too much about his nicknames at the time, but he's a less than svelte offensive lineman. So I was sharing this with the guys because they see us for who we are now. They don't see us for who we were then. And so Coach Alumbaugh, it's always fun to see him, as who he was. He was a bigger individual, still ridiculously athletic. But every year we have a Athlete of the Year ceremony at De La Salle, and they go through past winners, and I'm one of the past winners. And every year the crowd is like, oh, what? Because while I feel like I have the body of a beach body, some people don't think so. Anyway, so the kids all are in shock. And so what Coach Alumbaugh often says was the reason I became the Athlete of the Year. So I was, the captain of the football team, or a captain of the football team. I was the first De La Salle person to place at state. I took fourth in wrestling. But then Coach Alumbaugh, Justin says that the tipping point was that he told me to go out for diving. We argue about this.
In fact, sorry to interrupt. This was one of the questions from Justin Alumbaugh right here. He says, question number 2. We have to get back to question number 1. It says, how does it feel to have stolen the idea to dive from one of your best friends? So, okay.
So he claims that it was his idea that I dive. And he's a fantastic storyteller. You gotta talk to him at some point to hear him, elaborate on the truth. But he, in his mind, it was like, you should go out for diving because if you do that, you'll get Athlete of the Year. And that's not how I remember it at all. I remember going to some community pool with one of the guys from my baseball team, not Justin, and just doing tricks off the board and saying, this is a lot of fun. And as wrestling was wrapping up, I actually went out and talked Guthrie into letting me dive. Justin wants to take credit for a lot of things. He cannot take credit for that because my rationale, my reasoning behind diving was A, to get a good tan. My tan was ridiculous. B, go to Disneyland. At the time, we went down south to compete in a tournament, and I had to have a certain level of points to qualify to do that. I accomplished that. And then I wanted to look at girls in swimsuits. That was the bold, honest truth. If that helped me get Athlete of the Year, great. But it was really just a kind of a selfish motivation to, hang out in the pool all day and have a nice tan.
No, but you could do the dive still.
Yes, yeah. So the first day, Guthrie finally conceded. I left NCS practice for wrestling. We finished up early, and I went out, and the diving coach, he's still here, Coach Shaw, says, I want you to jump off the board like you're a pencil. Coming from an elite level of sports at the time, that seemed a little bit kind of ridiculous. So I said, I don't think so. How about I do a 1.5? And he kind of looked at me skeptical, and so I did the 1.5. And he was like, okay, we have something to work with here. And then he asked me a couple other dives. I did a reverse. I did an inward dive, and then I just was kind of feeling cocky. I just kind of threw it out to the pool. I was like, hey, I'll take requests. And this one gal, she was a junior. I'd been diving for 3 years. She kind of smirked at me, says, do a back 1.5. And I was like, I've never done it before, but we'll give it a try. And I hit it, and she was pissed off that I had been able to do something that she hadn't done for 3 years. So, I actually contributed points to our NCS win. It was funny. Ray Meadows, who's a teacher here as well, was on the swim team, was at the game versus Sarah. And the coach of Northgate at the time in 97 was there watching the game, and he saw that I was going into the Hall of Fame, and he grabbed Meadows, who he knew from swimming, and is still holding a grudge because he blames the loss to us that year on my diving skill. I think he has me confused with one of the other guys on our team who actually took third.
Right.
But
I'm trying to think. Did you do a triple Lindy?
I did not do a triple Lindy.
Did explain to the young kids what a triple Lindy is?
Yeah. So John Candy had
Dangerfield.
Rodney Dangerfield had a movie, Back to School, where he came out and he does a triple Lindy, which is like a flip onto another board with like 3 or 4 flips involved, and it's very, very much Hollywood. It's like a blue screen, and it's got Candy like mugging the camera, but it's a great movie. But no, I did not do a triple Lindy.
Okay.
No, I think my toughest dive was a forward 2.5.
Okay, we'll get I transition to something else, but no, in all seriousness, talk about the Salle Hall of Fame. We're joking around. That is a big honor. I mean.
Yeah, I still don't quite feel like I belong. I understand the mechanics and why I'm in, but this class is ridiculous. I mean, Joe C., Matt Gutierrez, the
Demetrius Williams.
Those are guys that, are all timers in terms of our program, and it's a tremendous honor. And I know it's just a matter of time before Justin's in there, and guys like DJ or Maurice or. So it's huge, and I'm not one to really kind of pat myself on the back. My wife's doing that for me. She's having a little get together, but it's fantastic. It's actually been a lot of fun to go back kind of down that memory lane. You were asking for some stuff, memorabilia. I've actually given all of my stuff to Tim Roberts for the production of that, but it has been fun to go back and go, oh yeah, that's right, that was pretty big.
Right.
So
and also maybe it's not the tipping point, but you're talking about memory lane. I have another question from Justin. It says, what is your favorite memory of the Little League World Series?
Well, it certainly wasn't our final game. And I would definitely say beating his team, because they lost at Western Regionals. It's really hard to point to a best, because I would say everybody should do it, but the reality is that only 4 teams get to do it a year. It was playing baseball every day. It was winning. We lost our first game of every double elimination tournament, only to have to face that same team in the finals and beat them twice, and that we did that in 4 consecutive tournaments before we got to Western Regionals in San Bernardino, where it was single elimination, so we couldn't do that, and then we just kind of won out, and it was magic. I mean, at Western Regionals and at Williamsport, they literally put you in a complex where it's nothing but your coaches, other 12-year-olds, and the other teams that are there. And they've got a pool, they've got rec center, they got food. So you're playing baseball. You don't have to do any chores. You're just hanging out with your buddies. It was fantastic. I mean, that was. But I do have a highlight. So after we get to the national championship. The next year, actually, October, we were going to be honored in the Rose Garden. So we got some free flights, but it was like a 6-hour layover in LA, like a 4-hour layover in Ohio. So at like 4 a.m, you've got 15, 13-year-olds having wheelchair races in the Ohio airport, where the only other people that were there and awake were these Amish couple that were like looking at these wild California kids. It was a fantastic. I mean, to sit there, the Minnesota Twins and Kirby Puckett were being honored. We met George Bush in the Rose Garden. I mean, that was pretty awesome for a 13-year-old kid.
I didn't know about that. So you were at the White House.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, yeah. Exactly. No, because that makes sense. The Twins won the World Series in '91.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
It's pretty sweet.
Kirby Puckett, Ken Herbeck.
Yeah.
Yeah. All those guys. Wow. Okay. Photos of that this exist?
I'm sure somewhere.
Okay.
My parents have shuffled. They keep trying to pawn the stuff off on me, and I don't have any place in my house. But a lot of stuff for the Hall of Fame I found is like in a box in the back corner of some random closet.
Okay.
So, well, I think we do.
Because if Tim Roberts has this stuff, see, this might have to be a 2-parter where we have to do it again with a few more of these things.
There we go.
I'm trying to think also. Tell me, I think they were sandbagging, but in Williamsport, you got crushed, but you beat the Chinese in ping pong.
Yes, we did. That was like our China has long been known as ping pong masters, and we absolutely dominated them in ping pong. They beat us 11-0, 11-1, but we beat them in ping pong.
Right, and years later, do you think they were sandbagging?
It's hard because I don't know many 12-year-old, 13-year-old kids that are hitting 500-foot bombs.
Right.
If you know Williamsport, you know that they have the tiered slope behind the fences. They were hitting it up onto the second level.
Right.
And while our pitcher was throwing like 78 to 80 miles an hour on the clock, so like who knows how fast that is on when they scale it to regular size. I don't know many 12-year-olds that are hitting 500-foot bombs.
Right, and that's what came out a few years later.
The next year they got
some of these
the Dominican Republic for older kids. Yes.
Exactly, okay. But in fairness, I mean, I know there's no fairness involved, but I meant...
We lost.
You lost, but maybe the only way off that island, Taiwan, is when you're 12. I mean, when you're 13, you say you're 12. I don't know. I mean, it's not right. But I'm trying to think where else we transition from here. No, we stick with it, because I had to dig it up, and you have it. There's a Wayne Gross baseball card there.
Oh, yeah.
And it's there for a reason. Take your time, but we can find it.
Is you sure it's over here? Maybe it got piled.
Yeah, let's see.
Oh, there we go.
There he is.
Wayne Gross. Okay, so his son he was actually my manager for Little League, and his son played with me, Kyle Gross. I think Kyle had a couple years in the minors, was a strong pitcher. Wayne was awesome. I mean, he was one of those guys that, inspired by example, was, he could walk softly and carry a big stick in terms of his approach, but definitely a good, as a coach myself now, I see him as somebody that would be a foundational person, somebody that, I'd like to pattern myself after in terms of his approach, kind of his ability to. He was one of the guys that showed me how to catch, which was a big help for me.
We'll go back to was that your position on the team?
Yeah, so I was a catcher. I was the backup catcher. I caught all through Little League, high school, played a lot of other positions, but just something about the physicality of catching and the being involved in every play that was really appealing. I think that's why I was a catcher. A wrestler, or a linebacker and a wrestler.
Right, also should give Wayne Gross his due. I mean, he played, 8-10 years in the major leagues.
He was an all-star, played for the A's.
The Orioles.
He was, this one's from 78.
Right, not the best batting average, but 20 home runs a year. I mean.
He was to a 12-year-old, he was a mountain of a man.
Right.
Very much a kind of a very rugged. He could play for the A's today in terms of their whole persona.
Well, actually, nobody could play for the A's today because they can't win an elimination game.
Oh, God, don't get me started.
Okay.
That game was a train wreck. How do you cough up a 4-run lead with John Lester on the mound?
Exactly. But I meant, I don't know what it is. There is something there that 7 straight elimination games. We'll talk. We got to talk about positive things. We'll move on from that. I don't know. It's my fault. I brought Wayne Gross.
No.
Okay. Maybe that's how we transition. It's not back to school, but there is a movie next to you there.
Yeah. So Sylvester Stallone's Cobra. I think at one point he single-handedly kills an entire biker gang.
Right. I can interrupt. I mean, it was like the New World Order, where whatever. I watch this movie about once a year. And every time I refer to it, is this movie as bad as I remember? And the answer was always yes, but in a good way.
It is the quintessential 80s action, shtick, where it's like one guy has a gun that never runs out of ammo, yet the other guy's guns always catch, and then conveniently I'll happen to have a boot knife. And it's fantastic. It's high gore, high action, low plot, low dialogue. Sylvester Stallone and
there's
Arnold Schwarzenegger duking it out in action movies. Cobra, Commando.
So you can talk Commando as well?
Oh, gosh, yes. All those movies. Those are right up my alley.
Maybe we save that for next time, because I've been looking for somebody I could talk about Commando with. And I'm trying to remember that. Yeah, that was the one where you're probably older. His daughter. They took his daughter, Alyssa Milano.
Alyssa Milano is like 14,
right.
13.
So this is like even like maybe during Who's the Boss.
Yes.
Well, I'm all over the place. I never saw that show once. That show Who's the Boss was on for about 12 years.
Yeah.
Did they ever determine who the boss was?
I don't know. I was not. I could tell you action movies. I could not tell you
See,
pop culture comedy.
No, but that's the point though. That all he wants to do is just stay retired. And then they take his daughter.
Yes.
And he has to, we'll come back and cover that plot. But
Cobra. So if you know De La Salle football, you know the persona of Cobra, and
we talked to Terry Edson about this.
Yeah, it's kind of Edson's role in special teams is, and I guess so Edson takes on the persona of Cobra, but really it's kind of a microcosm of what you need to do with special teams. You got to take on a crazy persona of I'm going to risk life or limb to make this play. And it really has been one of the hallmarks of De La Salle that, most teams, they go, well, let's rest our starters on special teams because we don't want to get anybody hurt or we don't want to do whatever. But the reality is that it is a giant third of the game. If you get a 30-yard return, that's 3 first downs. If you can get a touchdown, that's a game breaker where the spirit of the other person is broken. And so Edson takes on this persona of Cobra, and it actually started a little bit before the movie, but when Aggie got him, I believe it was Aggie got him the leather jacket for Christmas, and he was wearing it out, and somebody said, because he'd shown the film to his kickoff team, he said, "You look like Cobra."
Right.
And so it's transitioned to a much larger legend and lore, but
it's actually not too difficult to look like Cobra. Just put a jacket on, sunglasses, and a matchstick in your mouth.
Oh, but you gotta. It's not just one thing to look like Cobra. You gotta walk and act like Cobra. And
okay.
There's very few that can do that.
Well, and we know one guy it's Terry Edson. And all seriousness, that's one facet of the game. But I mean, we just talked about it. I mean, there's points to be had, and that's key. It's very difficult to transition away from Cobra, but we'll figure this out.
Well, so one of the things, I guess, to point it out, if you watched last night's game, on the first kickoff, Sam Phillips, who is this nice as can be kid that looks like middle America, comes down and absolutely annihilates the wedge. And there is something in what Terry has been able to do, and in a part that is the Cobra persona, but to give this selfless, no fear, I'm going to just go and give everything attitude, and it's physically intimidating. I guarantee that there was nobody that was a part of Sam Phillips' hit that wanted any piece of us after that first kickoff.
Right.
And it's just something that sets De La Salle apart.
Right.
In that, here's this small detail that most people kind of give lip service to that we see as a vital role. I mean, even to the point where he has an application. In order to play special teams, you have to apply to get onto special teams.
Okay. Even going back to that, I mean, that literally set the tone. I mean, I just saw the final score. I mean, it was quite high, but I mean, it literally changed.
We scored. We got the ball. We marched down and score, and then the opening kickoff to them has just like bodies laying everywhere,
right.
And I guarantee that those kids didn't want anything to do with us after that.
Right, and the score is reflective of that. And I'm trying to think how we wrap. I say not somehow. It's easy. Well, we're texting. We stay in touch. And we figure out what more we can do.
Totally.
And then, because to me, I mean, we're on the same page. I mean, we just enjoy each other's company. Maybe this is the last serious question. What is one sports moment at De La Salle that sticks with you?
Coaching or teaching? Coaching or playing?
Something? I liked what you said. Tell that teaching story. I mean, that's also, I mean, in all seriousness, and we're joking today, but this is serious, how you ended up back teaching. I mean, this is a great story.
Yeah, I came back coaching as like just something to do. What do you do when you get done with college? And I came back and I started coaching freshman football. And the head coach at the time, David Jeans, he's now our baseball coach, asked if I wanted to sub. And I said, sure. And David said, well, you can't just hand him worksheets. You have to actually teach the lesson. Well, I have a BS, even though it's in English and writing, which is a little bit disjointed. So I said, sure, I love it. I loved math and physics. I went in and I taught the lesson. And there was this kid who just didn't get it. I taught him the basic lesson where everybody else went, oh, I get it. But then I taught him, he didn't get it. Taught him a second way, he still didn't get it. Taught it a third way, he still didn't get it. And he, on the fourth time, goes, like that light bulb went on. It was like, oh. And for me, that was, so gratifying. Because this is like football, it's something that you want to do or you don't. And I can coach a kid that wants to do it, and I see that drive, but school is something that everybody struggles with. And for me to be able to help that kid get to that aha moment was supremely gratifying, because it was like I accomplished something. If I go 10-0 as a football coach, okay, or if we have a shutout as a football coach, that's great, okay? But at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. But if I can get that kid to go aha in class, almost with anything, that's something that's going to last for a lifetime, that's going to impact them in a better way, that's really what gets me going.
Right. Well, I think I think, I mean, we got to end on that note. I mean,
Cool.
I can't top that. And then we just stay in touch and we do more. I can't thank you enough,
No problem.
Greg. This was awesome today.
Yeah.